Okay, so chapter 5 from book 12 of the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam. Narada said, O all-knowing one, thou showerest thy grace to thy devotees. Thou hast described this sin-destroying Gayatri Haidaya. Now describe her hymns of praise. Narayana said, O world mother, O thou favoring thy devotees, O thou the prime force, O omnipresent infinite, Sri Sandhya, I bow down to thee. Thou art the Sandhya, thou art the Gayatri, Savitri, and Saraswati. Thou art Brahmi, Vaishnavi, and Rudri, and thou art red and white and black, the colors of Gayatri, Savitri, and Saraswati. But thou assumest respectively. O Bhagavati, thou art always meditated by the Munis as young in the morning, full of youth in the midday, and aged in the evening. I bow down to thee. Thou art seen by the ascetics as Brahmani, riding on a swan, Saraswati, riding on Garuda, and Savitri, riding on the bull. Thou art seen within by the ascetics as manifesting the Rig Veda in this world, as manifesting your Veda, Yara Veda, in the middle space, and as manifesting some Veda everywhere in the Rudra Loka. Thus roaming in the three worlds, I bow to thee, O Devi. Thou art the Rudrani in the Rudra Loka, Vaishnavi in Vishnu Loka, and Brahmani in the Brahma Loka. Thus thou showest thy favor to the immortals. O Devi, thou art the mother delighting the seven rishis. Thou art the Maya. Thou grantest great many boons to thy bhaktas. Thou art sprung from the eyes and hands, tears and perspiration of Shiva and Shiva. Thou art the mother of delights, Durga Devi, recited by the following 10 names: Viranya, Varada, Varista, Varavanimi, Garista, Varoa, Nila Ganga, Sandhya, and Boga Moksada. Thou art the river Ganges in this world, and Bhogavata in Patala, and the Milky Way in the heavens. Thou art in this world the all-enduring earth. Thou art the Vayu Shakti, the air power in the middle space. Thou art the energy, the ocean of Tejas in the heavens. Thou art the great city in the Maharloka. Thou art Yana in the Jhana Loka. Thou art Tapasvani in the Taparloka. Thou art truth, true speech in the Satya Lokam. Thou art Kamala in the Vishnu Loka, Gayatri in the Brahma Loka, and the other half of Hari as Gauri in the Rudra Loka. O Devi, thou art sung as Prakriti. Om Omahat Tattva, and beyond the highest Sarvabhauma Rupini. Thou art the Parashakti. Thou art the Parama Sakti, O Devi. Thou art the Tri-Sakti, the willpower, the Kriya Shakti, the power of action, and the Yana Sakti, the force of knowledge. Thou art the Ganga, the Yamuna, the Vipasa, Sarasvati, Sarua, Devika, Sindhu, Narmada, and Irvada rivers. We're gonna he who reads this Sandhya with all intention, will get sons if he has no sons, and will get wealth if he has no wealth. There is no doubt in this. Whosoever reads these prayers get the fruits of all tirthas, all tapasyas, all gifts, all sacrifices, and all yoga. So that's the hymn to Gayatri. And then we're going to go ahead here to chapter 8 now.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I'm going through the pages. They're crazy.
Beyond high capacity. So what Narada is asking now, it's here a few paragraphs in. He says, "Oh Brahmana, what is the real cause underlying secretly here in this? Kindly mention this to me. Again, there are seen many men well versed in various metaphysics and logics, out with MBAs and MAs, but then again, they have no faith in the Vedas. How is this? Nobody wants anything ominous to him consciously, but how is it that the so-called learned men are full aware, and yet they have no trace of faith in the Vedas? Kindly mention the cause underlying this, O thou, the foremost knower of the Vedas." So then Narayana says, "I now answer. Listen. In ancient days, the Asuras, maddened with pride, so the Asuras are the demons, fought against the Devas for 100 years. The war was very extraordinary and remarkable. In this great war, various weapons were used, variegated with um, various mayas and ingenious devices. It tended to destroy the whole world by the mercy of the highest and the most exalted Shakti. The demons were overcome by the Devas in the great war, and they quitted the heavens and the earth and went to their nether regions, the Patala. The Devas were all delighted and began to dwell on their own paras and became very proud. They began to say, "Why shall not victory not be ours? Why are not our glories great? We are by far the best. Where are those demons? They are devils, powerless. We are the cause of creation, preservation, and destruction. We all are glorious. What can be said before us in favor of the Asuras, the devils?" Thus, not knowing the highest Shakti, the Devas were deluded. At this moment, seeing their plight, the plight of the Devas, the world mother took pity on the Devas and to favor them, O king, she appeared before them in the form of the most worshipful, the great holy light. It was resplendent like 10 million suns and cool as 10 million moons. It was brilliant and dazzling like 10 million lightning flashes, without hands and feet, and exceedingly beautiful. Never was this witnessed before. Seeing this extraordinary, beautiful, lovely light, the Devas were taken aback. They spoke amongst themselves thus: "What is this? What is this? Is this the work of the demons, or some other great Maya magic played by them? Or is it the work of another um, creating the surprise of the Devas?" Then they all assembled together and decided to approach toward that adorable light and to ask it what it was. They then would determine its strength and decide what to do afterwards. Thus, coming to this ultimate conclusion, Indra called Agni and said, "O Agni, you are the mouthpiece of the Devas. Therefore, do you go first and ascertain distinctly what this light is. Hearing thus the words of Indra, Agni, elated by his own prowess, set out immediately from the place and went to that light. Seeing Agni coming, the light addressed him thus: Who are you? What is your strength? State this before me. At this, Agni replied, I am Agni. All the yagyas ordained in the Vedas are performed through me. The power of burning everything in this universe resides in me. Then that adorable light took up a straw of grass and said, O Agni, if you can burn everything in the universe, then do you burn this trifling straw? Again tried straw. Agni tried his best to burn the straw, but he could not burn it. He got ashamed and fast went back to the Devas. Asked by the Devas, Agni told them everything and said, O Devas, know verily that the pride cherished by us that we are supreme is entirely false. Indra then asked, Vayu, wind, O Vayu, you are dwelling in this universe through and through by your efforts. All are moving, therefore you are the prana of all. It is possible that all forces are concentrated within you. Go and ascertain what this light is. Verily, I do not see any other person here than you who can ascertain this great, adorable light. Hearing this commendable words of Indra, Vayu felt himself elated and went at once to that place where that light was. Seeing this Vayu, the light, the yaksha, the demigod, the spirit, asked, Who are you? What strength is there in you? Speak out all these to me. At this, Vayu spoke arrogantly. I am Vayu. About my strength, I can move everything and anything, and I hold everything. It is through the strength of mine that this universe is and is alive and brisk with movement and words. That highest mass of light then replied, O Vayu, move the straw that lies before you, and if you cannot, quit your pride and go back to Indra ashamed. At this, Vayu tried all his might, but alas, he could not move the straw a bit from that place. Vayu then gave up his pride and returned to the Devas and spoke to them all about this light. O Devas, our pride is vain. In no way can we be able to ascertain the nature of that light. It seems that holy light, adorable by all, is extraordinary. Then all the Devas spoke with tone voice to Indra. When you are the king of the Devas, better you go yourself and ascertain the reality of our nature, of its nature. Excuse me. Indra then, with great pride, went himself to the light. The light began to disappear gradually from the place and ultimately vanished from Indra's sight. When Indra found that he could not even speak to the light, he became greatly ashamed and began to conceive of his own nothingness. He thought thus: I won't go back to the Devas. What shall I say to them? Never will I disclose to them my inferiority. One is better to die than to do this. One's self honor is the only treasure of the great and honorable. If honor be gone, what use then is there in living? O king, then Indra, the lord of the Devas, quitted his pride and took refuge unto the great light, which exhibited ere long such a glorious character. At this moment, a celestial voice was heard from the heavens. O Indra, go now and do the japam, the reciting of the Maya Bija mantra, the best mantra of Maya. All your troubles will be over. Hearing the celestial voice, Indra began to repeat the Mahabija, the seed mantra of Maya, with great concentration and without any food. Then, on the ninth lunar day of the month of Chaitra, when the sun entered the meridian, suddenly there appeared in that place a great mass of light, as was seen before. Indra saw then, within the mass of light, a virgin form of full youth. The luster from her body was like that of 10 million rising suns, and the color was rosy and like a full blown java flower. On her forehead was shining the digits of the moon. Her breasts were full, and though veiled under the cloth, they looked very beautiful. She was holding the noose and a goad in her two hands, and her other hands indicated signs of favor and fearlessness. Her body was decked with various ornaments, and it looked auspicious and exceedingly lovely. Nowhere can be seen a woman as beautiful as her. She was like a kalpvriksa, the celestial tree yielding all desires. She was three-eyed, and her braid of hair was encircled with the malatai garlands. She was praised on her four sides by the four Vedas, incarnate in their respective forms. The brilliancy of her teeth shed luster on the ground as if ornamented with jewels. Her face looked smiling. Her clothing was red and her body was covered with sandalwood paste. She was the cause of all causes. Oh, she was so full of mercy. Thus Indra saw then the Uma Parvati Maheshwari Bhagavati, and the hairs of his body stood on end with ecstasy. His eyes were filled with tears of love and deep devotion, and he immediately fell prostrate before the feet of the Divine Mother. In sang various hymns of her and praised her. He became very um, glad and asked her, O fair one, art thou that great mass of light? If this be, kindly state the cause of thy appearance. This, my form, is Brahma, the cause of all causes, the seat of Maya, the witness of all, infallible and free from any defects or blemishes. Excuse me. If this be, kindly state the cause of thy appearance. Hearing this, the Bhagavati replied, and that's what she replied, free from any defects or blemishes. What all the Vedas and Upanishads try to establish, what ought to be obtained as declared by all the rules of austerities, and for which the Brahmanas practice brahmacharam. I am all that. I have told you about that Brahma, of the nature of the great holy light. The sages declare that the Brahman is revealed by Om and Hrim, the two beach mystic mantras that are my two first and foremost mantras, wherein I remain hidden. I create this universe with my two parts in my two aspects. Therefore, my Bija mantra is to Om Bija is denominated as Satyananda, everlasting existence, intelligence, and bliss. And Hrim Bija is Maya Prakriti, the undifferentiated consciousness made manifest. Know then that Maya as the highest Shakti, and know me as that omnipotent goddess at present revealed before your eyes. As moonlight is not different from the moon, so this Maya Shakti is the same in the state of equilibrium, is not different from me. During Pralaya, this Maya lies latent in me without there being any difference. Again, at the time of creation, this Maya appears as the fructification of the karma of the jivas. When this Maya is potential and exists latent in me, when Maya is antarmukhi, it is called unmanifested. And when Maya becomes kinetic, when the Maya is bahimukti, when she is an active kinetic state, it is said to be manifested. There is no origin or beginning of this Maya. Maya is to be the nature is to be to the nature of Brahma in a state of equilibrium. But during the beginning of creation, her form consisting of the several gunas appears when Maya is Bahimukti. She becomes tamas in her unmanifested state. O Indra, for this reason, her state of abstraction and becoming introspective, this is her antarmukhi state. It is known as Maya, and her looking outward is her Bahamukhi state. It is denominated by Tamas and the other gunas. From this comes Sattva and Rajas, and Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh are the nature of these three gunas. Brahma has the Rajasic guna in him preponderating. In Vishnu, the Sattvic guna preponderating. And in Mahesha, the cause of all causes is said to reside in the Tamas guna. Brahma is known as the gross body, Vishnu as the subtle body, and Ruda is known as the causal body, and I am known as Turiya, transcending the goodness. This Turiya form of mine is called the state of equilibrium for the gunas. It is then inner controller of all. Beyond this, there is another state of mind, which is called formless Brahma, known verily that my forms are two, they as they are with or without attributes, saguna or nirguna. That which is beyond Maya and the Maya qualities is called nirguna, and that which is Maya is called saguna. O Indra, after creating this universe, I enter within that as the inner controller of all. And it is I that impels all the jivas always to their due efforts and actions. Know verily that it is I that engage Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra, the causes of the several works of creation, preservation, and destruction of this universe. Through the through this form of me, the wind blows. Through my terror, the sun moves in the sky. Through my terror, Indra, Agni, and Yama do their respective duties. I am the best and superior to all. All fear me. Hmm. Through my grace, you have obtained victory in the battle. Know verily that it is I that made you all dance like inert wooden dolls as my mere instruments. You are merely my functions. I am the integral whole. I give sometimes victory to the demons. Yea, I do everything as I will, keeping my independence duly and according to the karmas justly. Oh, you all have forgotten me through your pride and sheer nonsense. You have been carried deep into dire delusion by your vain egoism. And know now that favor you, this my adorable light has issued suddenly. Henceforth, Banish ever from your heart all your vain boastings and idle pratings. Take refuge wholly unto me with all your head, heart, and soul, unto my Satchitananda form, and be safe. Vedavyasa said, then sang the Mula Prakriti, the great Devi, the goddess of the universe, banished from the sight. The Devas, on the other hand, began to praise her then and there with apt devotion. Since that day, all of the Devas quitted their pride and engaged themselves in worshiping the Devi devotedly. They worshiped the Gayatri Devi daily during the three sandhyas times and performed various yagyas, and thus they worshipped the Bhagavati daily. So that's one of the reasons why there's so much ignorance, is because points out about how they went into pride. And then the next chapter 9, which I don't think we're going to go into right now. I guess we could real fast. Chapter 9 goes on with this topic because the question, remember, was why is there so much ignorance now? Why do people who have a lot of information about the Vedas still are not being righteous? So, chapter 9, Vyasa says, O King Janamajaya, once upon a time of an evil turn of fate, karma, the human beings, Indra did not reign on the earth for 15 years. So what happened is everybody started dying, and they started eating their animals and even eating their dead body. I mean, it sounds very morbid. But then they remembered that the Rishi Gautama, they heard that his ashram was still very prosperous. So they all decided to go to his ashram. So when they arrived, it says, seeing the Brahmanas coming, the Rishi Gautama bowed down to them and gave them a cordial welcome and served them with seats. When all took their seats and became calm and quiet, Gautama inquired about their wellness and cause of their arrival. And of course, they described to him what terrible things were happening for the last 15 years. The Rishi said to him, I am today become blessed by your arrival. You are great ascetics, honorable persons. Like you, I am your servant. You consider all my house as yours. Be quite comfortable, bear no uneasiness. When your servant is alive, what fear do you entertain, and whom do you fear? So they all settled in, and then thus consoling the Brahmanas, the Rishi Gautama began to worship the Gayatri Devi with rapt devotion and trance. O Devi Gayatri, obeisance to thee. Thou art the great Vidya, the mother of the Vedas, higher than the highest. And she said, thou grantest the desires of the bhaktis. Thou art the witness of all the three states, the waking, the dreaming, and the deep sleep. Obeisance to thee. Now show favor on us during the severe time, famine time, when all the beings are nigh on the way to destruction. Thus praised and worshipped, the world mother Gayatri appeared and gave to the Rishi one vessel full to the brim, by which everyone can be fed and nourished. The mother told the Muni, this full vessel given by me to you will yield what you wish. Thus saying, the Gayatri Devi, higher than the highest, vanished. So then what Rishi did was he saw and then offered to all the other ascetics that had come there, all the Munis, wonderful food, boundless food, gems, clothes, beautiful things, silks, all the vessels needed for ceremonies came from this special cup, and they all had abundance. And so then the Munis then assembled and started performing their various yagyas and sacrifices, and everything flourished around because the sacrifices were very um, done with great devotion. And so it actually, everything went so well that it became very famous. The Devas, on the other hand, became very much satisfied by the various yagyas. So remember, the fire ceremony nourished all the Devas and extolled the Muni's greatness. So much so that the famous Indra, the lord of the Devas, came in the midst of the assembly and extolled his greatness, the Gautama Rishi, saying that he was like the wish fulfilling celestial tree yielding all desires, and praised him greatly. And then, of course, remember our friend Narada, who comes from time to time and seems to always bring some interesting karma with him. He started saying how he was up in the heavens and he heard everybody talking about the Rishi Gautama and what a great Rishi he was, and that he had created abundance for all the Munis and all the people who were otherwise dying. And then, of course, the Brahmins started getting, the Munis started getting jealous because Rishi Gautama was becoming so famous. So they decided to create this cow that was almost dead. And when Rishi Gautama was doing his yagya, they pushed him into the area. And when Gautama saw the cow, he said something, the cow died right there, which is very inauspicious. And Rishi Gautama was very um, very concerned and wondered what had happened. So he went into meditation and samadhi, and he saw that the Munis had done this to him after he had been so kind and saved their lives and everything. Out of their jealousy, they tried to make a bad omen in his yagya. And so he cursed them. And he cursed them with the curse that they would go to hell, but also that they would be born again during the Kali Yuga. And but they would be born without, even though they would know perhaps a little bit of the Vedas, they would not be practiced. They'd have no inclination to practice properly. Um, and that they would let's see, took that they would take their birth as Brahmins, devoid of the three sanyas, devoid of devotion of Gayatri, devoid of faith in the Vedas, advocating heretics' opinions, unwilling to perform Agnihotra and other religious sacrifices and duties, and that they were devoid of Swada and Swaha. So, because of that curse, they forgot entirely the Divine Mother, Prakriti, and some of them began to even mark on their body heretical signs, and they became addicted to other people's wives um, and did very bad actions. And for this, they had to all go to hell again. So what it ends here is it says that's the reason that during the Kali Yuga there's so much ignorance and lack of devotion. And at the end of the chapter, um, this is Veda Vyasa, one who wrote the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, is talking to King Janamajaya, who asked that question originally. What he's giving as advice, he says, so King, worship with your heart and soul Sri Bhagavati Paramashvati Devi. The worship of Vishnu and Shiva is not constant. Only the worship of the Divine Mother is to be constantly performed. Thus, I have answered all your questions. And now, in the next chapter, he's going to describe the Mani Dvipa, where the Divine Mother lives. So that's the end of chapter 9, answering that question of why are we so blind and ignorant during the Kali Yuga? And it's because of jealousy. And it sounds like both of those last 2 chapters about getting jealous or overpowered by ego. Any questions? This never happens in our lives, of course. I like to try to apply it to my life and see how I can forget the truth, the true reality when I start becoming full of myself or when I become jealous of other people. Yeah. So. Okay, well, Bole Baba Ki Jai. Stop the recording.